It was not going to be easy. We knew we needed to listen to each other's concerns very carefully. Above all, we had to listen to the concerns of the people of Northern Ireland. We knew we had to work hard with clear minds and determination, but we also both knew, dear Rishi, that we could do it because we were both genuinely committed to find a practical solution for people and for all communities in Northern Ireland. Today, we can take pride in the fact that we have delivered on that commitment. Because today we have reached an agreement in principle on the Windsor Framework. The Windsor Framework lays down new arrangements on Ireland, Northern Ireland. This new framework will allow us to begin a new chapter. It provides for long-lasting solutions that both of us are confident will work for all people and businesses in Northern Ireland. Solutions that respond directly to the concerns they have raised. Prime Minister, we worked hard across a wide range of areas. The new arrangements are delivering a comprehensive package so that we can address in a definitive way the issues faced in everyday lives. I will only mention two examples that I find most telling. Indeed, the new Windsor Framework will ensure that the same food will be available on supermarket shelves in Northern Ireland as in the rest of the UK. And furthermore, the new Windsor Framework will permanently enable all medicines, including novel ones, to be available in Northern Ireland at the same time, under the same conditions across the UK. For this to work, we have agreed on strong safeguards, like IT access, labels, and enforcement procedures that will protect the integrity of the European Union's single market. The new Windsor Framework respects and protects our respective markets and our respective legitimate interests. And most importantly, it protects the very hard-earned peace gains of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement for the people of Northern Ireland and across the island of Ireland. Violence has no place in our society. I condemn wholeheartedly the shooting of the PSNI officer in Northern Ireland last week, and my thoughts are with the officer and his family and friends. This year will mark the 25th anniversary of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement, an important milestone of the historic peace process. The new Windsor Framework is here to benefit people in Northern Ireland and support all communities celebrating peace on the island of Ireland. And this is why I believe we can now open a new chapter in our partnership. A stronger EU-UK relationship, standing as close partners, shoulder to shoulder, now and in the future. Many thanks.
Thank you, Ursula. We have time for some questions from the media. Could I start with the BBC?
Thank you. Chris Mason, BBC News. If the Democratic Unionist Party don't go back into government in Northern Ireland after all of this, does it ultimately amount to a failure? Question to both of you.
Well, Chris, I think today marks a turning point for Northern Ireland. I've spent a lot of time listening to communities there, businesses there, the unionist community as well, understanding their concerns, and I believe that today's framework addresses them. It ensures that we can move goods freely around our UK internal market, it protects Northern Ireland's place in the Union, and it safeguards sovereignty for Northern Ireland's people. But I also recognise that parties and communities across Northern Ireland will want to take the time to consider the detail of what we're announcing today, and we should give them the time and the space to do that, and I fully respect that. But I believe that what we have achieved today is a real breakthrough, and it's now for the parties to consider that and decide themselves how to take it forward and build a better future for people in Northern Ireland.
I think it's historic what we have agreed today and what we have achieved. And indeed, a lot will happen. The establishing of the green lane, for example, and the red lane for goods, the reducing of an amount of paperwork, reduced customs and checks on the ground, sharing customs data, information in real time. All these will drastically facilitate when implemented. It's a big step forward. And I think what is exceptional is that we managed to find an agreement for solutions that will protect our respective single markets. And this is a lot, and therefore I really want to thank for the excellent cooperation, and I really want to thank our teams also for all the time they've invested, all the knowledge. The result is extraordinary.
I'd echo what Ursula said about thanking our teams. And actually, Chris, to just building on what Ursula said, often we focus on the politics of situations, Westminster and all the rest of it, but this is about the people of Northern Ireland, about the communities, about the businesses there, and what's best for them. And I believe that the Windsor framework that we've agreed today really resolves the challenges that had been raised. It resolves all the practical issues on the ground. It puts people in charge of their destiny, and that's why it represents such a major breakthrough. And I hope everyone can recognise that and take the time to consider it. But this framework will start making a positive difference to people's lives in Northern Ireland almost immediately. And regardless of all the politics of this, I think that is something that hopefully all of us can recognise and celebrate. Can we turn next to RTE?
Hello, John Carrain from RTE here. The unionists say they want to be treated the same, and it's to both leader. They want to be treated the same as any other part of the UK. However, Northern Ireland is the only part of the UK that shares a land border with the EU. So there will have to be some differences for Northern Ireland compared to the rest of the UK. Do you believe the unionists will accept different treatment? And can you point to how, for instance, the European Court of Justice will have jurisdiction in Northern Ireland?
Do you want me to take that first, Ursula? I'll just echo what I just said, John, actually, about, yes, of course, politics matters, and parties in Northern Ireland, unionist communities will want to take the time to consider what we've announced today, digest the detail, and we should give them the time and the space to do that. But if you focus on people, on families, on communities, on businesses, I think people will see that the framework we've agreed today delivers significant improvements in almost every aspect of their lives that have seen disruption and challenge from the protocol. And that is something that I think can be celebrated and recognised, and that benefit will start coming very quickly. Now, there are a range of things that I heard when I talked to communities in Northern Ireland, and because of the breadth and the comprehensive nature of this framework, and you heard some of it in my remarks earlier, I think we're addressing all those practical challenges and indeed safeguarding sovereignty as well. And I know that's something that's particularly important to communities in Northern Ireland. With regard to the role of EU law, to recognise that with the consent of people in Northern Ireland has access to the single market, and I think we all collectively share an ambition to avoid, as you say, a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic. And that's why there's a role for EU law in Northern Ireland, but that happens with consent. And as a result of the agreements that we've reached today, there is further democratic accountability of that role of EU law with the new Stormont break, which provides a very powerful mechanism for the Stormont institution to use when it has concerns. And I think that is really important part of correcting the democratic deficit that existed and providing reassurance to everyone in Northern Ireland that they are in control of their own destiny.
Yes, indeed, the European Court of Justice is the sole and ultimate arbiter of EU law. That's natural because it's prescribed by the EU legal order. So the ECJ will have the final say on EU law and single market issues. But we have in this Windsor framework worked hard on the rules that existed before, not only the ECJ on EU law, but also the arbitration panel on not EU laws. And this includes the new Stormont break. which is based on the petition of concern that comes from the Good Friday Agreement. So we have built on this peace process the next step. We've kind of leveled up or improved the overall mechanism. I think important is in our Windsor framework that we are putting also in place several mechanisms that should avoid having to resort to the storm and break, which is an emergency mechanism. So extensive consultations with the UK and Northern Ireland stakeholders on new EU laws, but also consultations of the EU by the UK on UK planned regulatory changes. This is important for us. And with view on Ireland, of course, there has always been the full commitment, and there is the full commitment of the European Union to safeguard the Belfast Good Friday Agreement in all its dimensions. No hard border on the island of Ireland, and of course that we fully protect the integrity of the EU single market.
Can I turn next to the Express?
Thank you, Prime Minister. Sam Lister, Daily Express. This has been described by some as a test of your leadership. Are you planning to have a vote on this deal? And if so, how tough are you prepared to be on Boris Johnson and members of the ERG if they decide to oppose it? And I wonder if I could just ask President von der Leyen a question. Can you explain to us why Rishi Sunak's been able to negotiate these concessions when his three predecessors were unable to? Thank you.
So yes, Parliament will have a vote at the appropriate time and that vote will be respected. But as I said earlier, I think it's important that we give everyone the time and the space they need to consider the detail of the framework that we've announced today, because it is comprehensive in nature and that will take time for people to digest. But ultimately, this isn't necessarily about me, it's not about politicians, it's about the people in Northern Ireland. It's about what's best for them. It's about those families, those businesses, what this framework, what this agreement will do to improve their lives. And I believe that the changes that we have made, the breakthroughs that we have been able to put forward together, will make an enormous difference. We can now say that goods will flow freely, smoothly across the UK internal market, that we've protected Northern Ireland's place in our union, that we've safeguarded sovereignty for Northern Ireland's people. Those are all significant achievements, and that's what we should focus on. And I think all of us know about the stability that is required in Northern Ireland, the delicate balance of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement and how important that is. Today's framework means that that balance is restored, and that's why I think this is a very significant step forward. It marks a turning point for the people of Northern Ireland today, and I very much hope as a result of this they can look forward to a better future.
I think it is very important to take note of the fact that the two of us, when we met for the very first time, we agreed that, I mean, if you look at the huge challenges we are facing together, whether it is the atrocious Russian war in Ukraine or the fight against climate change, we have so much in common. We're fighting for the same values. We're standing on the same side, shoulder by shoulder. And we want the best solution for the people of Northern Ireland in the situation that we have right now. So there was a very constructive attitude from the very beginning to solve problems, to find solutions, practical solutions for everyday life of the people and businesses in Northern Ireland. That's what we've done. And we've jointly developed the solutions. It needed a lot of goodwill and knowledge, and we have jointly agreed on that now. So I'm very happy about the agreement that we found with the Windsor framework.
Right, and lastly, have we got Le Soir?
Chloé Goodenough for the Belgian newspaper Le Soir. Would you say that the trust is back between the UK and the EU? And would you say that this deal will help the UK to participate again to Horizon, the research program?
Do you want to start? First?
Yes, this Windsor framework is good news for scientists and researchers in the European Union and in the UK. Because, of course, the moment we have finished this agreement, so it's an agreement in principle, the moment it's implemented, I am happy to start immediately, right now, the work on an association agreement, which is the precondition to join Horizon Europe. So good news for all those who are working in research and science.
I think I'd also just add to that, there's a range of different areas that we can cooperate productively on, and the President and I started that work when we first met. But if you look at how we've responded to the situation in Ukraine, that's required very close coordination on things like sanctions policy, which the President has led, and we work very closely together on that. Also energy security more broadly, given the interconnected nature of our energy markets. Climate change is another area, and indeed illegal migration. These are all the types of things that we can continue to make good progress on working together to the benefit of all of our communities that we represent. And I look forward to doing that with President von der Leyen as well. Good. Thank you very much for your time.